Quadcast. What 20 years of disability has taught me. We help people overcome adversity and find freedom through writing. Prison break. I remember Dad and I driving out here for the first time. It felt like a prison break from the hospital. Excitement, nervousness, fear. I wanted to be heading home. Definitely not to another facility, a disability-supported accommodation facility for that matter. My health was literally dictating my life. It was around 1 p.m. that we arrived at these empty buildings. You could even see some reminiscences from where workmen had been. Yellow tape here, blocks of wood there. Plus, all the gardens were practically empty with only juvenile shrubs. Thankfully, it was paved though. Dirt and uneven surfaces can be a total bastard in a wheelchair. So next thing, Dad got me out of the ambulance. 2 middle-aged ladies with smiling faces greeted us. This was the manager and second in charge. Pleasantries exchanged. And, as this is what Dad and I were there to do, they then began to give us a tour around the joint. No furniture, stickers still on all the white goods, and these strangely super wide doors and hallways. Ah, Sherlock. Wheelchair friendly? Both these chicks were so pumped and proud of what had been created here. Dad and I. And then we got to the part of the tour when I was shown my proposed bedroom. Weird feeling. Anyhow, all this was roughly 15 odd years ago. And the strange part about it, I'm writing this today from this very room. Sucks. But why I say all this? Well, I thought I'd write a little rant about the changes I've seen here. Like, sure, the bricks and mortar are obviously still the same. We even have furniture and trees now. Some huge bastards that I remember watching being planted. However, there's another part of this facility that I find almost unrecognizable these days. I'll get to this in a minute. So, yeah, changes, I guess, most of these center around the residents themselves and then the staff. Far out, it's hard to even estimate how many different faces I've seen walk through these doors. It would be thousands. Still, there has without doubt been an enormous shift that has taken place within these walls. Over these past 15 years, and to pinpoint it, this shift has definitely centered around culture and standards. Like, how not to put this too bluntly? Well, once upon a time, this was a pleasant place to live, whereas nowadays, it really does feel like a workplace. Rules, rules, rules. Only there are reasons for this shift, yet whether they are fully justifiable, well, sure some are, but others I feel like they're more like excuses for staff ease and control. Yep, sadly this whole place leaves a bad taste in my mouth these days. I just know what it once was, and could still be. So I think the best place to build this story is to start with the residents. Like when we first moved in, there was several strong voices and advocates, and the focus really was on us being active and living. She's and the staff were awesome back in these days. They really would do everything in their power to facilitate things like community inclusion. What happened with these strong voices, though? Well, they began to pass away. In fact, they're all gone now, which this left a very big void here in terms of advocates for residents' rights. So management and some other toxic residents jumped right in. Then another aspect to all of this, the nature of many of the new residents coming in, well, they were way sicker and also had these long lists of very complex health needs and some even behavioral issues. This is when the general ethos around here went from a focus on living to one of survival. But the thing about this, these new residents and their voices, which I do think are listened to a point, their goal was to turn this place into a full-on nursing home. This is only my opinion, though. Still, the result, this is pretty much what has happened. To give some further perspective on this and the changing needs of the residents, for about the first 8 years on the morning shift, there was 2 long shift staff, 8 hours, and 1 short shift, 5 hours, whereas nowadays there's 6 long shifts. This is for 5 residents today, when it was 4. But it's still nuts. It's higher than an ICU ratio. And what this means, well, my home is one big staff room. It's such a different vibe to back in those early days. So many different personalities, egos, opinions, and ideas of what care should be. It's like a melting pot of bullshit. Now, to yet another variable in this shifting culture and standards. Well, it's paperwork. Like nowadays, I can't even fart without having a file note written about it. Yes, it's so bizarre. My whole life is documented. Whereas way back when I would have been lucky to have one file note a month. Then another shift. It's definitely the attitudes of the staff. There's such an us versus them mentality now. Like I used to genuinely be friends with some of the old staff. They'd see me as a person. Actually, it was a cooperative, mutual approach to caregiving and working together. Whereas nowadays, I'm a job, just another cog in the wheel. And the running of the house always comes first. Breathe. Look, yeah, I think I've said enough. Plus, I must also say that this is all a very sweeping overview. There are so many intricacies and complexities that I just can't cover in such a small amount of words, but I'm sure you get the drift. Yep, I'm currently living in a place that I in no way signed up for. Also, one semi-regret I do have. I should have probably been a louder voice when this place was transitioning into this fear and control factory. I'm just always so busy with my own agendas. And honestly, I don't like to shit where I eat. All right? So, there you go. Life living in a facility. It's pretty strange and unconventional. Definitely not something I'd recommend. The only positive, and I suppose the only thing that saves me from complete mental annihilation, thank God some of the staff are lovely and totally have me back. These days, this is a small number of people, though. But really, this is the only saving grace. Truly, I'm so grateful for some of the people I've met along the way. Thank you. You know who you are. Thank